Hi, Anushrut. Welcome to the TSP podcast, where we believe that every learner deserves access to quality AI education. We have so many learners with us in various stages of learning, where they're trying to be experts in AI and machine learning. And we are so happy that we have you here. And a lot of our learners will get to learn so much from your journey. And once again, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Shweta. Happy to be here.
We would love to know more about you and your professional journey. Could you share how it all started and could you walk us through your journey?
Oh, for sure. So let's go from my undergraduate experience. So I studied computer science from IIT Roorkee. Right after my undergrad, I joined Intuit as a software engineer in their research group. So it's the team called the Futures Group, which works on incubating new product ideas for the company and experimenting with emerging technologies. So I was a software engineer for a couple of years, but then I realized that uh, my passion really lied towards finding problems than implementing solutions. So empathizing with the customers, empathizing with different stakeholders, and trying to understand what are the different moving parts and what are the problems that need to be solved. Trying to understand the urgency and defining the scope, and coming up with a plan of action, which directly translated into the role of a product manager. So I moved from being a software engineer to a product manager within Intuit's research group. Then was a product manager for a couple more years until I decided to do my MBA from the Wharton School. So I was at the Wharton School for a couple of years, and I really wanted to explore working with early stage companies in the emerging tech space. So throughout my first year, I worked with this last mile drone delivery startup called Kite Dynamics, where we built new technologies for last mile drone deliveries in dense urban areas. Um, and then my second year, I joined Hasura, where we were incubating this new product called PromptQL, which is now live, which is how do you connect your AI, your large language models to your enterprise data in a very agentic way. So that's what I've been working on for the past 1 year. And since graduating from my business school, I have been working with Hasura as a product manager on PromptQL.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go back to your engineering days, right? I'd love to know more about how did you choose to spend your time? Like, how did you find your passion during that time? Like, what are the clubs you participated in? What are the initiatives you took up? Would love to know more about how those experiences helped you find that first job after your school.
Oh, for sure. I think the first piece of the puzzle is finding your passion, like finding your motivation. If you ask me, why did I choose to even become an engineer or go into the engineering route? I would say the moment I built my first application, it was a very tiny application. The moment I built my first application, I felt I was in control. I was very powerful. I could think of a problem and solve it myself. And this was a very easy app. So I used to listen to music on iTunes on my Mac. And every time I was listening to a song, I would look up the lyrics on the internet and then try to. Every single time I would change my song, I would have to look up the lyrics. That why couldn't there be an app which just understands the song that I'm playing, looks at the song that I'm playing, and onto the internet and finds the lyrics and show it to me. So that was the first app I ever built. It was a simple Python app using the tkinter library, which would get the metadata of the song that was playing from iTunes, and then use this library called PyLyrics to fetch the lyrics based on the name and the artist from the internet, and then just show it in a simple on a simple desktop app. That was the first application I built, and I was like, "This is insane." Now, with this, I think I can do anything I want. So that's how I got interested in engineering, building my own things. I eventually joined Roorkee as a computer science undergrad student, and there, one of the best things that happened to me was the tech club at Roorkee, which is called IMG, Information Management Group. So this club is basically responsible for maintaining all the different internet applications in the college, all from your academic portal to your placement portal, to all the different student resources that we have there. So I joined that club as an engineer, and eventually, in my fourth year, became the head of strategy and administration for the group. Uh, Came up with a few new ideas for apps inside the college. Worked with an amazing set of designers and engineers in the school, and implemented a bunch of really cool apps. So that's where the journey started. All of that led to me looking for an engineering role once I graduated. I interned with Intuit back in 2017 in their research group as well. So the best thing that happened was my experience with building stuff instead of just going the traditional data structures and algorithms route for recruiting that most people do, which is great in itself. But I felt I could talk lot more about my own engineering experience during an interview if I'd actually built something real which was used by some real people. So all my work with my tech club was, I think, the best thing that happened, and I could talk in depth about the different technologies and frameworks I was aware of. So I was basically a backend engineer who knew how to write code in Python and use Django to build web apps. So I could talk in depth about those. So yeah, that's where it all started, and then after that, I will answer more what happened after joining into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before we move on to your experience at Intuit, I think it would be great to learn about one, what are the technologies that you built an expertise in during engineering, and two, as a follow-up question, what would your advice be to students who are currently in their engineering to
Mhm.
build these real-time apps, right? Like, I think what really stands out in your experience is having that early exposure to building applications and software tools that are already being utilized by a lot of people. That is solid experience right there, right? Like, as you mentioned, it helps you stand out in interviews. Let's say for students who don't have such opportunities in their schools, how do you find such opportunities? Like, how do you navigate that? Do you have any recommendations for students? Because a lot of times engineering students don't have enough real world experience when they go and approach their first job. So that would be my two questions.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So the first thing I would say is to answer your first question, which is what technologies did I learn? What was my
Yeah.
experience, right? Right. So I was focused more on the back end. I did learn a bunch of PHP, Python, and some level of JavaScript, specifically Node.js. But my forte was Python and Django.
Okay.
Um, because I felt that like just with this one framework, I can build any kind of application I might want. And Python had the biggest uh, set of libraries and tools available on the internet. So I thought that was like the best technology set to learn. On the front end side, I did learn a bunch of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript so that I could write my own applications end to end. But I will not say that I was the best at it. So I was always had friends who could help me along with that. But now with the advancements in all these generative AI technologies, it's just so easy to build applications and just come up with an idea and just ask your AI to do it. Um, so that is that. But now, how do you find these projects to work on? Now, the second question that you asked. I would say first it starts with the self. So, do you think that there is a problem in your life that you can solve or streamline with technology? Right? Is there something which you can do? Do you want to build like a calendar app which looks at your emails, sees if there's something urgent coming up, and sets a time on your calendar for personal tasks, or sets up a time with someone else? Can you create that as a workflow? Can you automate that workflow? So just think about some tiny problem that you might have in your life that you think you can build a solution for. So start there. Start small. Doesn't matter how easy or basic it is. You don't have to show it to anyone. It's just you're just doing it for yourself. You're just doing it to learn. So I would start there. Second, I would look around you, towards your friends, towards your family. Like for example, my mom was working on like a small business, and she wanted to create a website for that. And she was about to pay someone online for a like a freelancer online, and do it for her. I was like, hey, wait, hold on. I am trying to learn computer science and coding. Can I try first? Can I do it for you? Uh, so that's how I learned basic web development. So just be aware of the things that people are doing around you, and see if there's a scope where you can help out and learn along the way. Then third is get involved in online communities, become active in online communities. communities like the Scrappy project, things like those, where you meet people, like-minded people from different diverse sets of backgrounds, different levels of experiences, where you can share ideas and resources. You can tag team on different projects. Get involved in the open source community. Find a project that you're passionate about, something that you like, something that you've enjoyed. See if you can contribute to that community. Look at all the issues that have been created on an open source GitHub repo. Pick a very tiny issue. See if you can solve it and raise a PR and get involved in that community. So that's how I would start. Just tiny things. Just start chipping away at a tiny problem, and then see how much you can learn within a few months. Yeah.
That's great. I think these are such valuable points. Thank you for sharing that. I think now we can move on to like your experience at Intuit. And I know you mentioned that you started as a software engineer, and you did give a highlight about what made you make this switch to product manager. But I would love to start from what kind of technologies you worked on as a software engineer, and how did the transition happen, and yeah, just more about that journey, because it's not very easy to make that journey. A lot of times, I know so many of my friends want to make that switch to being a PM. So, would love to know more about your journey.
Oh, for sure. One thing I would say is there is no one set path for anyone. I would say once you have graduated from your undergrad, everyone has their own path in their own lives. Uh, you can always learn from other people's experiences, how they approach a specific scenario, but you'll always carve your own path. But let me share my journey. So when I joined Intuit, I was the technology stack I was assigned was Java, Java with Spring, and my first project was in the journal databases space. So what that means is basically, if I want to store historical snapshots of my database, how do I do it the most efficiently? So basically, you can think about it as Git for data. So
Okay, got it.
yeah, so that was like a new piece of technology that Intuit was trying to invent. So until I think Amazon came up with their uh, quantum ledger. I think that's the name of their technology. Then we stopped our project because that was objectively better. But still, I was working on that for almost the first year of my work at Intuit. Learned a lot, and the biggest challenge there was how do you convince real product teams with real product problems to incorporate a technology which hasn't been battle tested, which you have invented, sure, in your research lab. But how do you convince a real product team, which is dealing with real customer problems and bringing in the real revenue? How do you convince them to adopt it? So, um, the biggest learning I had there was just develop very deep empathy for your potential customer or your existing customer, which is try to understand instead of pushing your solution, pushing your project, pushing your technology, try to understand what exactly are they trying to accomplish? What are their goals? What is their vision? What are the biggest roadblocks in their vision? What are the challenges that they are facing? And see if you are the right person to solve it or not. And if you're not, swallow the ego and the pride and say that you're not. So that was the very first moment also when I realized that empathizing with the customer problem is also where my passion lied instead of building technology itself. Um, so eventually, in my second year of being an engineer, I started working uh, on this new product, which new technology, which does basically workflow automation through a stateless technology. So right now, most of the uh, workflow technologies that are out there are very like they are finite state machines. Like you go from step A to step B to step C, you program all the steps, you define all the possible different conditions and routes. But this was a new idea that Intuit was exploring that can we create a workflow automation technology using knowledge graphs, where depending on the state of the knowledge graph, you decide what is the right path to take to achieve the next state. What is the most efficient path to reach the next state, and this path can be different depending on the current state of the graph. So you don't have to define explicitly all the different possible states of your basically this finite state machine, but it's very adaptive, which is no matter what stage you're thrown in, it'll figure out what is the right next step to take to achieve a workflow. It's a little complicated. It's a little. I may not be doing the best job at explaining this, but again, this was like an internal new technology that we were building. We implemented this in multiple different products in the company to improve the efficiency of those products and the automation process in these products. So that was that. But through these 2 years, what I realized was that most of the projects that our team was doing, not just mine, but the other engineers in my team as well, the success rate, and by the success rate, I mean like adoption of a new technology into one of the products in the company, that was pretty low in the company. Like that's very natural for a research group, but still, it just seemed a little too low for us. And I was trying to think, like, why is that? And what I realized was because our team is made of incredibly smart engineers and data scientists, but everyone gets excited about a solution or an idea that they might have in their head and starts building it out before spending some time thinking about a problem. Like, am I actually solving a real problem that exists out there, or I'm trying to build a solution and then try to find a problem later? And that's fundamentally the wrong approach. So we need someone in the company, in this team, to start thinking about the problem first. Then coming to these really smart engineers with the problem, and then ask them, now can you solve it? So who is this person, right? There didn't exist such a person in the team. So I wrote like a 6-page document to my leadership that, hey, we need to think about a different approach towards picking projects in our team. And we need a dedicated person to think about what problems we need to be solving. And this defined this role, uh, titled it as a product manager, and sent it to my leadership, which got escalated to the chief innovation officer at Intuit. And one day he called me to the room and says, "Hey, I hear you have opinions." I'm like, yes, sorry. Okay, so that conversation went really well, and then that's how this role was created in the team.
That's amazing. It's fantastic. I think advocating for yourself is like so important, and I think your example is something everyone needs to learn from, because a lot of times, especially when I joined a multinational company as my first job, I would struggle with like voicing my own opinions. But a lot of times you need to do that, and then you can get to wherever you want to be. Thank you for sharing that. And what I observed was you've worked on like a lot of cutting edge technologies, especially in blockchain, right? Would love to know more about maybe during Intuit.
Mhm.
We'll talk about your current experiences shortly, but in Intuit, when you were working in blockchain, and now when you see the sector, where do you think the future of the space is heading towards? Are you excited about it? Like, how do you see the space?
Specifically blockchain as a
Yeah,
uh, base. Okay.
yeah.
Um, so to be very honest with you, I haven't been following blockchain since the last Bitcoin dip.
Okay.
I would say in 2022. So after that, I have involved myself more in AI than in blockchain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still have some opinions on blockchain.
Okay.
So when I was at Intuit, I was a product manager at Intuit, and I was working on Intuit's basically blockchain strategy, like trying to answer that question: that where should a company like Intuit, like an enterprise, big enterprise software company, uh, how should they think about blockchain and crypto in general? So, of course, it started with Intuit needed to do crypto taxes because TurboTax is a huge product, and people invest in crypto and trade in crypto, and they have to pay their share of taxes to the government. So, Intuit's tax product should be able to handle that. So that's how like crypto started at Intuit. Uh, my first task was, should Intuit's QuickBooks payroll product have a crypto payroll option that our small business customers pay their employees in crypto? So, uh, so they were hearing from a bunch of small business owners that, hey, our employees are asking for payment in crypto instead of cash or direct deposit. So you should offer that directly in QuickBooks. So we thought, okay, fair. There's a customer demand here. So let's test it out. Let's instead of directly building a solution, let's see what's the best proxy for this. So what I did was I created a sign up flow where whenever a new employee of a small business customer of ours joins the payroll platform, they have to sign up where they share their personal details, and then they share the bank account information where they want their payroll to be received. We added an option: hey, do you want to receive a part of your paycheck in crypto? So we did that. We added that option. And then if they clicked on yes, then we asked them, okay, what what percentage of your paycheck would you want in crypto? Then with specific cryptocurrency, with specific crypto wallet. So we had this like this sign up flow, and then towards the end, like, okay, thanks for sharing, but this is a feature coming soon. We don't have it yet. But still, not letting them know that we don't have this feature until they reach the end last week. So we rolled this out to a few, like a certain percentage of new employees getting onboarded. We noticed that less than 1% of the new employees wanted to get a portion of their paycheck in crypto. Um,
Okay.
Less than 1%. And then out of those 1%, the average paycheck size that they wanted in crypto was 7%. So now you can see basically overall 0.7% of all the payroll that has been processed through QuickBooks payroll would be in crypto. Now, is that an effort worth taking? Is that a risk worth taking? So, which is why we stopped that project there. But that was a very data driven decision that we took. So, and then, of course, the entire crypto crash happened, and eventually we moved away from that. But what we realized with like throughout our work in the blockchain technology and crypto was that um, to use blockchain, you have to pick two out of the three core pillars. One is uh, the speed of transactions, cost of transactions, and true decentralization. Uh, there isn't a single solution, in my opinion, which has all three solved well. Uh, Bitcoin is completely decentralized. It's the pinnacle of decentralization. But you know how expensive do a transaction on Bitcoin blockchain, or how slow it is. Um, Similarly, if you think about these different payment protocols, like for example, we have uh, what is that? The payment protocol, not Ripple, but the other one. Um, uh, it's fine.
I think there are a couple of protocols coming up, especially in the payment space right now. I know there's like uh, I know there's Hyperswitch. Are you talking about Hyperswitch?
Oh, I think I'm talking about Stellar.
Okay.
Yeah, so XLM thing. Yeah, so yeah, we were looking at this Stellar protocol as a way of doing basically uh, quicker, faster payments across our different sites in across the world. So like really fast transactions, uh, really cheap transactions. But then you have to trust one of these anchor nodes in XLM. So is it true decentralization? It's not. So, which is why I think so. The one risk towards that, for it to be mainstream, for it to be adopted in the mainstream, it there needs to be execution to all three pillars simultaneously, and I don't think that exists today.
Interesting.
The other thing is crypto and as a concept exists based on trust, right? Trust in the system, in the methodology, by the majority of the netizens. But until 50% of the masses believe that Bitcoin is, or like the crypto is the primary way of transacting financial transaction and financial equity, uh, it cannot go mainstream. And if I trust my central banking institutions more than I trust an um, online entity, this online protocol, uh, this protocol will not really become mainstream. So that is my fundamental disconnect with crypto. So, which is why, as until I would say the majority of the public trust is established in that, and which unfortunately also it's a direct representation of the government's trust in such technology. Because by default, the public trusts the government, and the government has to make decisions on technologies. So until that happens, I don't know how easily can crypto go mainstream. So I'm not going to
That makes
speculate on
sense.
prices and things like those because I'm
Yeah,
supposed to do that. But yeah, that's fine.
that makes sense. I'm sure this perspective is very helpful for learners who are focusing on this space right now. Thank you for sharing that. And I think the next question we could talk about, how did you navigate your next career opportunity? I'm guessing it's via business school and the internship opportunities there. I would love to know from you, how did you decide to now enter the AI space from all the blockchain background that you had? And how did you choose Hasura and your journey there? Would love to know more.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So when I was at Intuit, towards the end of my 4 years there, I had learned a lot, met some incredible people, worked on some really
Mm,
exciting stuff. But I always felt that I wanted to do something in a much smaller, much faster setting. So
okay.
where the scope
Mm,
of impact is higher, the opportunity to take ownership is higher, which directly translates to a startup. But I was in the US. Um, I was on an L1 visa, which means I couldn't really
mm,
switch companies. Plus, me having always been with one company and always been in the engineering circles, I really wanted to try something new. I wanted to be in an environment where I'll find people who are just not like me, who come from a
mm,
completely different set of experiences, completely different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different industries, different countries, and just be in an environment with them for a couple of years, learn as much as I can from them, try to understand more about the world, more about both myself professionally and personally from these different set of lived experiences. And I thought, what is the best way to do that? The best way to do that would probably go to business school, because because how many computer science engineers do you see in an American business school? Not many. So and I think that's one of the best decisions I made. Now, you can always argue whether it was does the financial ROI make sense or not. I
mm,
don't have the best answer for that. But as a personal experience, both personal and professional experience, I think it was great. Met people from all walks of life,
mm,
from all kinds of countries, and I think made some incredible friends at the age of 27, which I didn't think I could.
mm,
So I think there was a great decision going to business school. Plus, I got to experiment a lot. I got to answer a question: hey, do I like venture capital? Do I like consulting? Are these potentially industries which I want to explore? Uh, do I really want to work with a startup? Can I try working with a startup? And that's what I did. In my first year, I worked with a pre-seed startup and saw how it felt. Kai Dynamics was really small, a team of 5 people, really amazing people, trying to build something really cool, cutting edge in the physical hardware space. It's a mix of hardware and software with drones. So amazing experience. But then one fine day, when I had just recently started my second year at Wharton, I get a call from my brother that so he was already at Hasura, and he was directly working with the CEO. And my brother says that, hey, my CEO wants to explore something in the AI space. Hasura is already great at data aggregation and data retrieval for app development. They want to see, can they translate their expertise into AI as well, like data aggregation, data retrieval for AI. But they need someone who understands the space technically well, but can also see if there's a business opportunity. So they want someone who can spend some concrete time on this to explore this as a new product opportunity. So would you be interested in doing that? I'm like, sure, let me get on a conversation with the guy and see if there's something there. So I spoke to Tanmay, who's our CEO, for a hour and a half, and we really hit it off. It sounded like a really interesting idea to explore, and like the perfect time because GenAI was at the peak, and uh, like his basic argument was everyone talks about AI all the time, but how much do we really use it? Right? Apart from writing simple emails and scripts, how much do we really use AI? Do I ask AI to do my data analysis? Do I ask AI to generate a report based on real customer data? I don't, right? Because my AI is not connected to my data. So can I really do that?
mm,
Can we do that as a company?
mm,
That's a brilliant idea. Let's try. I try to explore that. So that's how I got to this space, and I explored this idea part time while I was still a student for a few months. It graduated to a proper product. An entire team was assigned, and I joined them after school full time as the product lead, and we've been doing it since. And we recently launched last month
wow,
from QL.
that's awesome. Tell us more about Prompt QL.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, so as I said,
Mhm.
everyone talks about AI. No one
Yes.
believes AI at work, right?
Hmm.
The reason we believe that no one uses AI at work that much is because AI doesn't seamlessly connect with your enterprise data. Uh, and
Hmm.
when I say enterprise data, what I mean by that is you have data in your databases, right? SQL databases,
Mm,
no SQL databases. You have your own microservices, you have your APIs, you have your SaaS applications, Salesforce, Zendesk, you have your
right.
communication applications, Slack and email.
Mm,
Um, so you have data spread across so many different data sources. There doesn't exist one system which can connect to any kind of data source and
mm,
flexibly create a plan to query the data based on your query. Uh, you may say, okay, Glean does that. Glean is a brilliant product. But
mm,
what Glean excels at is with unstructured data, with documents.
mm,
Uh, if I want to do an analysis on a trillion transaction records, which are in BigQuery, and then do some kind of a join with that, and then my users' information, which is, let's say, in Postgres, and then also
mm,
map it with some data which I have in my ticketing system, which is Zendesk. How
mm,
does do that? How does any
mm,
technology do that, right? There doesn't exist any such tool. So what we realized is what's missing is something called what we are calling agentic data access and compute. That AI lacks agentic data access and compute. The ability for AI to understand what is my data landscape, what
mm,
is the right uh, data that I need to fetch to be able to answer my user's query. How do I create a
mm,
plan of attack? What data do I fetch? How do I manipulate it? How do I process it?
mm,
To run any computes based on what I've just analyzed, do I need to fetch more data? Fetch that? Do I need to take an action? Do I need to hit an API to take an action? And then eventually come up with a very grounded answer for my user. This kind of a solution, like an AI that thinks, then an AI that comes up with a query plan and then takes action based on that query plan, doesn't exist out there. That's what we want to build. Then you run into a bunch of challenges. Like fundamentally, you're limited by LLM's context windows. You can't load a trillion transaction records into the LLM context window and ask the LLM to answer a question. It can't do that. You can't fit so much data into the LLM context window. You can't ask a follow-up question to the AI because it will hallucinate if you give it a bunch of data and ask it to repeat it, right? If you ask it, oh, what happened to my 100,000th user? Who is the 100,000 user? What is their customer ID? What is their customer email? You can't trust the AI to remember that well. So these are fundamental problems. So the way we thought about solving that is giving your AI a computational runtime, like basically, and a structured memory. So when you fetch the data from a data system, don't pass it to the LLM. Keep it in a runtime where you can just write Python code on it, right? Why can't you just write code on the data you have fetched and just process the data in code? Why do you have to do process the data in the LLM's context, right?
mm.
If
Yeah.
you want summation or a correlation analysis or like an average or something like that, any
Mm,
just statistical analysis, I would rather want to do it in Python, right? That's how humans do it,
mm,
right? And if you ask an analyst, they will open up a Jupyter notebook and do some analysis in Python. Let's make the AI write Python on the fly instead of
mm,
trying to remember stuff in its LM
mm,
context, answer everything in the
mm,
LM. So a combination of basically a unified um, schema, an ability to access data across any data source using a unified schema, ability to create a dynamic query plan to answer your query, the ability to programmatically process the data that you have just fetched, and the ability to have a separate memory which is beyond your context window. And then, of course, very fine grained authorization and access control rules on your data because in an enterprise setting, you need very fine grained authorization. Um,
right.
Combination of these five really allows you to build super powerful AI applications on your data. And that's what PromptQL is. PromptQL is this technology that helps you build these applications on your data
Okay.
in just a few lines of code.
Oh, that's awesome. So, is it a B2B solution that you're offering to all these companies? And have you seen early adopters? Is it being used by engineering teams within these companies?
Yeah. So it's an enterprise product, I would say.
Hmm.
Yes, there's a free tier available for like independent developers, people who want to
Hmm.
experiment. So it's more like a bring your own LLM and bring your own data model. So it's your AI, it's your data. PromptQL is a bridge that connects your AI super smartly to your data. You don't have to write your individual rack pipelines, right? You don't have to write your vector
Right.
search pipelines, your text to SQL
Hmm.
pipelines, your function calling pipelines. You don't have to do any of that. Just connect your data
Hmm.
sources to Hasura's data delivery network.
Hmm.
And PromptQL just works. Pass your LM key, and PromptQL just works.
Hmm.
So so primarily, like our customer is like an AI engineer, like an engineer looking to build an AI application for their own teams. So that's where we
Hmm.
started with, like internal applications, internal enterprise applications. Let's say,
Hmm.
like a customer support assistant. Like my customer support
Hmm.
team wants to ask an assistant, "Hey, who is my most important customer based on the number of tickets they have raised and the revenue they have generated for us?"
Hmm.
How have their tickets been resolved or not? If not, hey, can you issue like a $500 refund to them? Or
Hmm.
like there's a sales assistant that my sales team is talks to, like what leads are stuck in stage 3 for the last 1 month, and why do you think they're stuck there? Based on look at other leads which have passed from stage 3, what is going well with them? Okay, who is the assigned point of contact for these leads in stage 3? Oh, can you send them an email saying that we have these new capabilities that we have recently launched? So why can't my AI assistant do all of that? Why can't it just
Hmm.
on the fly fetch data from okay Salesforce, take an action on Salesforce, populate data, extract information, move data, stuff like that? Why can't an AI assistant do that? So that's what where we are seeing the biggest interest, which is building internal applications.
Hmm.
Eventually, some partners of ours have also expressed building like consumer-facing applications. Like imagine like a bank creating a chatbot for their customers, which can answer questions like, "Hey, how much did I spend in the last 3 months?"
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
is that in line with other people who have a similar credit score? Should I be adjusting my spending?
Hmm.
Things like those. So the dynamic, flexible queries on real data. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And now that you've held product roles in like so many different companies, I can see the context within Hasura versus the early stage company and Intuit. It would be so different. How do you approach learning in these different contexts? Like, how do you um, prepare yourself to approach the different problems that you'll encounter in a new situation that you're put into?
So that's a great question. One thing I try to do is
Hmm.
try to see what does this company have to offer,
Hmm.
and not really go in with a certain set of expectations. If you go in with a certain set of expectations, you will go in with a certain set of biases. You will
Hmm.
go with a certain set of mental blocks,
Hmm.
and then you will criticize a company for not delivering on your expectations. So Intuit has some incredible things to offer. Some things are not that good. Same with a startup. Same with Hasura. Like I work there, and it's an amazing time that I'm having there. But not everything is peachy. So think about what a company can offer. Okay, if I'm going joining a big tech company, right? Okay, what they can offer is a structured work environment. They will have processes, right? That's a great thing to learn. Like how do you work in a very structured environment? How do you structure a project or your problems that you're trying to solve, and which works well with multiple stakeholders, larger teams,
Hmm.
with huge potential impact.
Hmm.
Uh, learn things from there and then apply it to your next role. I learned so much from Intuit, which I'm able to apply to a much
Hmm.
more chaotic company, which is Hasura, where there is so little organization, at least for this new product that we are building.
Hmm.
Uh, this tiny, very agile team, which with constantly changing requirements, constantly changing deadlines. But how do you bring structure to that chaos? It's something which I learned from Intuit. So versus what I learned from Hasura is how to be flexible, right? Because um,
Hmm.
At Intuit, if something was expected of me, that was still the same thing expected of me a week later. At Hasura, my boss can call me up in the middle of the workday saying, "Hey, can you drop everything that you've been doing because and can you get this done by the end of the night?" I mean, I need to be flexible to that, and requirements will change. Like a customer will come and say that, "Hey, actually, we our legal team came back and realized that security is our biggest concern. So we are not very comfortable moving ahead with that." Now you were working on proving out the technology, but now suddenly you have to pivot and try to prove out this security and safety. So you have to pivot within a matter of hours. So things like these are what you learn from all the different roles that you have. So go in with a very open mind. Try to identify what is great about this specific company or the role. What is something unique that they have to offer? And try to just internalize and be a sponge and learn as much as you can in any role that you have. And then see if you can apply that to the next role that you go to.
I love that. And asked you this question about blockchain, so I have to ask you about AI as well. How do you see the future of Gen AI taking shape? Like for the tech folks, where should the focus be, or like where do you think the focus needs to be for all the future solutions that are going to shape up, or for learners who are looking to like learn more about Gen AI? Would love to hear your perspective about that.
Yeah, I am extremely optimistic about Gen AI. AI have to be for my job, but I still am. I think I'm. Yes, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of noise in the industry. Uh, it's really tough to cut through that noise. There are a million startups that are coming around. Not many of them will survive. There's so many different approaches being thought about, different types of products and ideas coming up. Um, so, uh, uh, Gen AI in general, I think, is a brilliant new invention, which solves a real problem, which has the scope to potentially change the world forever, which it already has started to do in some sense. Will it take away all the engineering jobs or product jobs? Not in the next 5 years, I would say. Not in the next 10 years. But there's what this also opens up is a huge possibility of experimentation and opportunities for even the smallest of developers. You do not need resources to leverage Gen AI. Yes, if you want to build your own foundational model, you need a crap load of money, a crap load of compute power, amazing AI engineers. But you, as this independent engineer, independent developer, you can use some of the world's most powerful models like 3.5 Sonnet or GPT-4o and build an AI application of your own. There is this huge community out there you can brainstorm ideas with. You can build something, put it out there, get criticized to the core, learn from it, pivot, and build something new and better. Uh, you can always challenge the status quo because best part of the status quo is it hasn't been established yet. If someone says RAG is the best way to connect AI to data, you say no. It probably isn't because of X, Y, Z reasons. They might ask you, okay, then what is the best way? I don't know, but RAG for sure is not. Now let me think about it. How should I connect AI to data? And that's what the starting point of PromQL as well. Like let's question the status quo. What if RAG wasn't the best solution? What if there was a better solution? So I am very optimistic about the potential of Gen AI. I think there are some of the brightest minds are working on Gen AI, and there is so much scope for uh, people from all kinds, independent developers, people who have never written a single line of code today. Because I have so many friends who are able to write code because Gen AI exists. They have been able to build some really cool stuff just because Gen AI exists. So I think the future looks super good.
On that same point, in in today's like world of Gen AI, where anybody can write code, how do you think software engineers can work towards improving their skills, or like how do you think software engineers in general or developers can approach this changing scenario for themselves, and how do they continue to be relevant in the world of Gen AI?
Yeah, I read recently somewhere that 25% of the code that runs in Google is AI generated. Now, that was pretty cool, right? Like a company like
Yeah.
Google adopting Gen AI
Yeah.
generated code. So if you ask me, will Gen AI put engineers out of a job? Um, my answer is I'm not sure. I will not say yes or no. Um, but what it allows you is a brand new tool to uplevel yourself. Like now you have freed up time. You don't have to write 1,000 lines of code anymore. You can spend that time thinking about the architecture. You can spend that time thinking about the system design. You can implement 1,000 more features in the same amount of time you were implementing 10, right? So it's increasing your productivity immensely. And I would say that's what you should leverage. Do not shy away from incorporating Gen AI into your own workflows. See how you can replace yourself. I would highly recommend replacing yourself. See how you can automate your own life, automate your own job, because then it'll leave time for you to think about what more can I do, something that this AI is not able to do. How do I connect multiple AIs together? How do I create a multi-agent AI that can do not just my job but my colleague's job as well? So it just improves the amount of the level of creativity that you can showcase in your own job. It gives you a brand new tool, a new shovel for you to dig the deepest hole. Do it. So I would say embrace Gen AI as much as you can as an engineer, and see what you can build, what's something bigger and better that you can build.
That makes sense. I think it's a great point to like wrap up our conversation because this is like something that everybody thinks about. And I think you've summarized it very well about like trying to leverage these tools that are out there into your own lives and trying to see how you can replace yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all the insights and sharing your journey with us. And this has been incredibly insightful. Thanks a lot for your time, Anushrut.
Of course, Shweta. Thank you so much for having me today. This was a great conversation. And yeah, all the best for TSP and hope this becomes huge. I would love to come back again sometime.
Thank you. Thank you, Anushrut. Of course, we would love to have you again.
Hey, Shweta.